Hello, you're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. Because it's more fun to believe.
You can hear me okay?
Oh, yeah, I hear you already.
All right, good.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in your computers that don't need tuned to another episode of, I'm being so serious, another episode of Me and Paranormal. People who have never listened to the program are listening to this episode for the first time and they're like, what the fuck is happening? Did I just say fuck?
Why am I listening to this?
Is this a paranormal podcast where they use adult language?
No bars hold.
No bars hold.
How does it go?
No bars hold.
What is it?
No, you nailed it.
Is that right?
You
Okay,
nailed
okay.
it. No holds barred.
No holds barred. That's it.
Paranormal Talk Radio. I don't think I've ever called the show that. 650 plus episodes. I think that's the first time I've ever been like, this is some real paranormal talk radio.
Well, it's already getting scary.
It is already getting
It's already getting scary.
Ed Brown.
Oh my gosh, man. I think I've been on this show more times than you've been on Bob and Tom.
I think you're probably incorrect.
Incorrect? Am I incorrect?
Oh, you know what, though? You have been on this program a lot. I don't know how many times, but probably at least 5 now.
Yeah, I think this is 4 or 5, yeah.
We got to have you. I've been a guest host on Bob and Tom.
Yeah.
So we should, that was, if you're wondering if that was an EVP, that was a scent dispenser. What is that?
Yeah,
thing called?
it's one of those airwick things that has a little battery in it, and like every
It squirts out pretty smelling stuff.
Yeah, every few minutes it'll.
Okay.
If I don't, the house stinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. But anyway, so we'll have to have you, guest host the show one day.
Oh man, I'd love to. If you ever need me to, I would. I would.
Anyway, we are in, location unknown at the home headquarters. Is this like half the headquarters of Big Truth?
Yeah,
is this the Big Truth?
Yeah, this is the Big Truth headquarters.
Big Truth headquarters.
Yeah, somewhere in the hollers of Tennessee.
Somewhere in the hollers of Tennessee.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, we turns out about 5 months ago. Last time I was here, we drove through some really incredible, like mountainous forest and stuff, and we stopped for a break on the side of the highway that was curling through the mountains and the woods, and it was some interesting. We'll have to go into this terrain at some point. Maybe when it's a little warmer next year. Maybe in like late spring where it's not too hot, but it's also not cold.
I think in order to get to that terrain that you're referring to, I think we would have to get ourselves some, climbing gear, the right equipment, because that first part of that is like extremely steep.
Well, what I'm thinking is we first just go do an initial scout and just go do the trails. Go through the hiking trails and just kind of peep it out.
Yeah, kind of get to that point.
Because there's camping area back there somewhere too.
You would certainly think so, yeah.
Yeah, so it looks like it's a big state park, probably, if I had to guess. Anyway, today I want to talk about, who knows what all we're going to discuss, but the big shout out to the neighbor. I'm looking at their house, and they have Christmas lights up out front, their whole house decorated already. Big shout out, big fan of that. The morning after Halloween, Christmas lights go up in my book.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to the neighbors. But I want to talk about Paracons, paranormal conferences. You have a lot of experience going to those. So I don't know how many people listening to this show have ever journeyed out and attended a Paracon. I would be interested to know the answer to that. So if you've ever been to a Paracon, I'd love for you to reach out on either social media or whatever. And also, just as a reminder to people listening, ad-free experiences. If you want to listen to these conversations and other episodes ad-free, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. $3 and up a month will get you all of the episodes from, I think, a couple months ago, moving forward, ad-free. And plus, I haven't had time to go through the backlog yet, but I will do that eventually. Nonetheless, I want to talk about Paracons. I want to talk about, upcoming paranormal plans, because I will be going back to Florida, I think, within the week. A week from today, I might be once again staying the night at the location that you first took me to.
Yeah.
3 years ago.
And I gotta tell you honestly, and all joke around says, I know we like to joke around and stuff, but all joke around set aside, I know what you went through, and I know how it was on you, and I just know that, I'm kind of proud and impressed that you're willing to go back, especially without having, your support team, with you, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, because it is a little bit daunting. I mean, Carolyn is like, I think Bill and I want you to stay for a couple nights,
right?
If you can.
Sure.
And I was like, ooh, thinking about that is like,
you don't get any better people than them, though. I mean,
honestly,
they're just. I love them both as like their family, and they are. I mean, they really are. I love them both.
Yeah, incredible people, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'll update everybody. I'll update the listeners soon, but and also I just want to drop a note that The Bridge is dropping, the paranormal investigation documentary series that I've been creating and I've been working my tush off on this thing. So sorry, I haven't had an episode. I didn't have an episode out last week. Too busy doing other stuff, promoting the supernatural. If you've watched that, thank you very much. We're at 35,000 views and counting. It's been out 10 days. That's great numbers.
Yeah, I just watched it for the first time tonight, as a matter of fact.
Oh yeah.
You said you were on your way. I was like, well, hell, I guess I better watch this.
I better be a good friend.
Yeah, that's right. I gotta tell him what I think.
See, that's a friend. They'll do something they don't want to do.
Yeah. So I wanted to make sure that I could tell you what I thought about it. So instead, I just say, no, it was really good. It actually was good. It really was good. It was fun.
Yeah, no, I think if you haven't had a chance to check it out yet, I think you'll enjoy it. If nothing else, it is beautifully shot.
Yeah,
and,
it really is.
Hostel Elementary School is really on full display. But I
love the opening, by the way. I love the opening. Dude, you should get an Academy Award just for the opening.
Oh, you thought it was that good?
I really did. The opening, okay. I was like, damn, he can act.
Well, I was a theater major at college, and what was that?
I haven't the foggiest idea what that was.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. It happens every night, all the time.
Seriously though, what was
I swear to God, I don't know what it was. It happens all the time.
Do we have any idea where that noise just came from?
Not a clue. It's always
I am not. I just don't know if you're fucking.
I swear to God, I know, and I get that because I make it really hard to know when I'm just messing around.
Because Ed is notoriously a jester.
Listen, I swear to you, I live here. It happens every night, and it's just so pop, and it's done. It's like, what the hell was it? So I've gone in there, I've stood in the kitchen, I've listened for it again, and it never happened.
Well, it's like a house noise.
Yeah, it just happens. I don't know. It's like that. I don't know. I don't know what it was.
Okay.
I don't know what.
I don't remember hearing it the last time.
Yeah, it does. It happens every night.
I mean, Claudia is around. It could, but obviously, this is a very familiar. That same noise happens all the time.
It's always something similar to that. It's like always some kind of
a clack.
Yeah, like something just got tapped, or like something like a domino fell over. You know what I mean? Something along.
Yeah, that's
that,
a very good. Yeah, that's a very good description. It sounded like a domino.
Yeah, just So, and I don't know what causes it. I don't know where it's coming from. I don't know what it is, but it happens every night.
Okay, we did have something spooky just happen on the show. Something unexplainable at the very least.
Yeah, and you probably picked it up.
Oh, I guarantee I picked it up. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I can see the sound wave form there. Anyway, that was strange. I want to talk about. You were just at Phenomicon.
Phenomicon, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Oh man, Phenomicon was awesome. It was a pretty huge event. It was held in Vernal, Utah, in September. Excuse me. They had the entire cast of Expedition Bigfoot was there. The entire cast of Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch was there, and just a plethora of other.
Which, by the way, for the record, in my not so esteemed opinion, or esteemed whatever, just my opinion, those two shows, Expedition Bigfoot and Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, if nothing else, if for no other reason, the way that they put them together and polished them and packaged them, and the production value and the way they're edited. Two of the best paranormal shows on TV. Now, there's a few others that we could also mention, but we're talking about who was at this conference. So yeah, those are great headlining, quote unquote headlining casts that are at the conference.
Oh yeah, I was actually lucky enough to be the MC for that event, so I actually MC'd it, which was really cool because I got to, being the MC, you can be a nobody and still get to go in the green room and hang out with these guys. So,
well, you're asked to be the MC of an event like this because you're not a nobody.
Well, no, actually, I got asked to be an MC at an event like that because Russell Acord is a friend of mine. So
yeah, from Expedition Bigfoot.
Yeah, from Expedition Bigfoot. So they said, man, we need an MC. He goes, hey, let me call Ed. So he called me probably back in, it was like last December, I guess it was, and he says, hey, what are you doing in September? I said, I don't know. What do you need me to be doing? He goes, I need you to MC this event with me. And I'm like, say when and where? Just say when and where. And so it was a good time though. It was a good time, but yeah, they had, the entire cast of Expedition Bigfoot. There was Ronnie, Dr. Mayer,
Ryan
Russell,
Blank, Maria Mayer,
yeah,
Dr. Maria Mayer,
yeah, Russell Acord, and of course Bryce Johnson were all four there. So it was pretty cool. I got some pictures with all four of them. That was my highlight of my event, I think. But then you also had Dr. Travis Taylor. There were so many doctors there. There was this true story, kind of funny, that when I first came up to open the event, I had to remind everybody. I said, look, when you look at the little magazine there was showing everybody who's speaking, don't get confused. This is not a medical conference. There's so many doctors on there. I was like, good Lord. There was Dr. Travis Taylor, Dr. Maria Mayer, Dr. Rebecca Foster. There was, just the list goes on and on. There was like a ton of doctors, and it was pretty cool.
Dr. Feelgood, was he there?
Yeah, no, that was me. That was me. Yes. So yes, I was there.
So Dr. Feelgood was also there.
So it was a great time. They had Stacy Brown was there. They had James Vieira from all the shows about the Giants and stuff. He was there. And I could sit here for the next hour and tell you about the people and how cool they were.
Well, that's what I want to talk about when it comes to Paracon. It's a weekend event typically, right? And I've been to the Conscious Life Expo out in Los Angeles, which is I used to call it the Super Bowl of like the mystical and spiritual and paranormal kind of conferences, right? They just overtake the Hyatt in like the convention center out there, like that area. But it's got everything you could possibly imagine happening out there, and it can be pricey. Now, if someone is wanting to maybe get a little more specific into whether it's Bigfoot, although, whether some people like it or not, the Bigfoot world has become very paranormal lately.
Yeah, it really has.
As someone who has been, you're a veteran of Paracons, I would say, right?
I've emceed several. I've spoken at probably a good 10 or 12 of them, and I've got a couple coming up, in the next 6 months. Actually, 3 coming up in the next 6 months. So that I will either 2 of them I'll be speaking at. One I'm going to just MC.
Let's plug those. What are they?
Well, Paracon is April 28th, 29th, and 30th, which, by the way, just so everybody knows, and if you're anywhere near Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, you got to come down because not only is it about all that, but on Friday night, after the meet and greet, Mr. Ryan Singer here will be doing a comedy routine.
Yeah, a routine. Yeah. I will be, we'll be doing a comedy show and for the VIPs only.
Right, yeah.
VIP ticket holders only.
Yeah, those are selling pretty quick, by the way.
Oh, are they? That's good.
Yeah, no, there's quite a few sold already, surprisingly. What I mean by that is I didn't think they would even start selling until like after New Year's because of the economy and Christmas coming up and things like that. And then like every day is messed with.
That's actually a really good Christmas gift for somebody, the paranormal lover in your
absolutely, absolutely. And if you're within 400 miles, I mean, it's
make a weekend out of it.
Absolutely. So, but on Friday night there'll be a VIP only where people can come in and actually get some quality time with all the speakers, and the speaker list is actually really good. I mean, there's going to be, Russell Acord to be there from Expedition Bigfoot. Ronnie LeBlanc will be there from Expedition Bigfoot.
Dave Schrader will be there.
Dave Schrader,
from
yeah.
The Holder Files,
absolutely.
From Darkness Radio. He has a new show called The Paranormal 60, which is, you can find that everywhere on YouTube and anywhere you can listen to podcasts.
Turtle Man? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Turtle Man. Turtle Man's going to be. You know who the Turtle Man is, right?
I always forget who the Turtle Man is.
The Turtle Man. He had his own show where he was kind of like an exterminator, I guess. He would go to people's houses and get rid of their raccoons or whatever is nesting in their house, and then he would never charge them. They would give him like a loaf of bread or a bushel of potatoes or whatever for helping him out. That's what he charged. But what a great guy! I mean, really nice guy. I've never had the opportunity to meet him yet, so I'm really looking forward to meeting him at this one.
What's the connection with Turtle Man to the paranormal? Yeah.
Well, Turtle Man is obviously from the hills. He's a country boy. Honestly, I have never heard anybody ever say anything bad about this guy. So I know he's a good guy. And again, I'm looking forward to meeting him myself. But he's from the hills, right? He actually lives, in the hills. He's a country boy. And after his show and everything, he kind of got into the whole Bigfooting thing, and he was actually on an episode of Finding Bigfoot. So actually, Cliff and Renee and Matt and Bobo all went out there to his place and actually did an episode on his property, which was pretty cool.
Wow. Okay.
So he kind of got into it, but he's not. I mean, he doesn't care about that, man. He just wants to have fun. He loves meeting people. I've heard people say, and this is no kidding, he'll be at an event and someone will say, "Come on, man, let's go get some lunch." And they'll go, "No, man, I can't leave my friends, man. Bring me something back." He won't leave. He just loves to meet people and sign autographs and meet people. So he's a class act.
Well, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And who's Marge in charge, or you know what I'm talking about? She's on the list as well.
Yeah, I don't really know. I know that she is some kind of she's just gonna be like a special guest, and there's going to be several of those that we're calling wild cards. They may not be into the paranormal or anything like that, but there's going to be a few people there that are just there to say, "Hey, let me sign autographs," and hopefully people say, there's going to be all these Bigfoot experts or paranormal experts or UFO experts. Alex Mistrada is going to be there. He's going to be there. He's going to be speaking. And then you got these people who have nothing to do with it, but they're just coming to meet people and sign autographs. So hopefully,
so it's fun. I mean, basically,
exactly.
These things are supposed to be fun.
Yeah,
they're supposed to be enjoyable.
That's the principle. It doesn't always happen, but that's the principle.
So, so we're both looking forward to that. And what is it in April? I forget.
April 28th, 29th, and 30th.
That's right. Yeah, Pigeon Forge. So, in the springtime. Now, what other? Do you remember the other ones you're doing in the next few months?
There's one that's going to... I don't remember the name of them. And again, so far it's just been a phone call. "Hey, man, are you available on this time? I'd like you to come," from friends. Hey, they want to call me up, just say, sure. So I know one is going to be in Kentucky, in southern Kentucky. I believe it's going to be in Hazard, Kentucky, Hazard County. Or I'm sorry, Harlan County. I'm sorry, Harlan, not Hazard.
And if I'm not mistaken, that is the location... No, actually, that's not the location of Justified. I think Justified was in Lexington, wasn't it?
Justified.
That TV show with, what's his name? Where he's the cop. He's like the cowboy cop. And,
You're not helping me.
He was in Timothy Oliphant. The actor Timothy Oliphant. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, moving on, yeah.
Really good television.
No, seriously, let's waste 5 minutes on this because I have no idea what you're talking about.
I mean, it's if you've never seen Justified,
right?
I'm telling you, you're in for a treat.
I'll look it up. You talked me into it. I'll look it up.
It's good.
All right.
Because, oh God, why am I? Walter Goggins is in that. He's incredible. I mean, he's incredible in everything. But, and you might not know who I'm talking about, but as soon as you see him, you'll be like, "Oh, that's Walter Goggins."
Gotcha. Yeah.
That actor is He's a badass. He's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway,
same thing when someone says, like, I tell somebody, hey, I had lunch with Sonny Schroyer the other day or whatever. They're like, who? Enos. And they're like, oh yeah, Enos. Yeah, of course. Everybody knows Enos. Yeah.
Well, so other conferences to be named later. Basically, what I'm setting up here is that you've been going to conferences, you've been part of conferences,
sure,
for a long time.
Yeah, I'm also the co-founder of the International Bigfoot Conference, which was held in Kennewick, Washington. That was huge. I mean, it was a huge event. A lot of fun, a lot of work.
Any chance you're bringing that back?
Russell Acord from Expedition Bigfoot and I, we started the International Bigfoot Conference, the IBC. It took a couple changes, obviously, and with my job, it was hard for me to put any real effort, as much effort as it deserved, into it. But we during our get together in Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah, I did look at him and said, "Dude, we got to bring back the IBC," and he goes, "Yeah, we do, but that's as far as it's gone so far." So. Who knows? Maybe.
So there's a chance.
There's a chance. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's a far-fetched idea.
It's not an easy undertaking.
No, man. It requires. I mean, to do. Anybody can put one together, and there are some out there that they're fun. They're great little get-togethers. A couple decent names there. Some good draws. And they're a lot of fun. But to put one together, and to make it, that much of a success takes a lot of work. I mean, it really does. It's a job.
And I think one of the important parts of, in my mind, right, and the only one I've ever been a part of in the past is Alien Con, which was run by History Channel, Ancient Aliens, years ago, 2017, I think. Anyway, that was... They had some, good speakers there as well. Like George Norrie was there. They had a big panel and all kinds of stuff. But what I think is interesting, the interesting opportunity for these conferences, for paranormal conferences, is you have an opportunity to bring in people who have done thoughtful research and investigation.
Sure.
And some of them might just be more kind of a researcher or an academic type, right? But you have an opportunity to see people who are presenting basically theories, information, their ideas about what might be happening, presenting evidence in some cases. You can see that as well. But where I find it to be an opportunity and to be interesting is the people who are doing a good job, and it's not easy to do.
Sure.
Putting together a great presentation that presents new information or new ideas,
right? Or
something just as effective is an overview of the evolution of an idea of what some of this stuff, whatever phenomena we're talking about, could have been.
It's funny you say that, because the one I'm doing in Virginia, which don't quote me on that, but I think it's June. I could look it up on my phone while you're talking in a second if you want, but and get the name and the date and everything, but which would be fun. But that's actually what I'm going to be speaking about. It's funny you said that.
You're doing the history of what?
I'm not really the history, but I'm going to be doing an overview of, it is a Bigfoot conference. Let me point that out first. So it is going to be designed or geared more towards Bigfoot. But I am going to bring in my plan is to bring in a UFO element to it. Not that I think, because I don't. Not that I think that Bigfoot's come from space, because I don't believe that. Personally, I know a lot of people do, but I've not seen any evidence of it. But just aliens in general, UFOs, what might they really be, and go over some different, ideologies, I guess, if you will, because, I have my own theory on a lot of what people see. I don't think they're really crafts where there's an alien inside flying it. I think maybe they're drones, for lack of better words. I think they're coming down in like a drone coming down and they're just scanning the terrain or, whatever it is they're looking for, whatever they're here for, that's all they're doing. And then they take the drone back, get them, download the information. That's a possibility anyway. So I want to discuss that. I want to discuss other possibilities as well, and I kind of should be a fun presentation in a Bigfoot genre spot, nice change of pace. So
yeah, I think that's interesting. I think it's an interesting idea. The fun part about this is you can really see, like, I've seen a ton of people speak over the years as a member of oh my god, UPARS. Gosh, I forgot what it was called because it's been so long since it's been a thing. Because pandemic pretty much shut it down. I don't know if it's coming back.
Right.
But UFO Paranormal Research Society of LA, UPARS LA. I saw Ben Hansen. I saw Ron Moorhead. I saw a ton of people, give talks.
I spoke there, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I saw you speak there. We talked about this, right?
What's that?
When you were giving that talk? At UPARS? What, like, my reaction was?
Well, see, what was funny? No, I know that you and I had a little difference of opinion on what, and you've actually set me straight. Let me say that real quick before I say this. But I know that we had a difference of opinions on what that was that scared you in Florida. At that.
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about just my visceral, like, my emotional reaction to some of the stuff.
No, tell me.
Because I think at the time, well, this was before, because this sent me down a rabbit hole where I really went into investigating and trying to research the rake.
Yes.
And to find out that it was, creepypasta, essentially.
Right. That's exactly what I was going to say, was you corrected me on that, because that's what I thought you had witnessed, or what had happened to you. Because I know you had said Bigfoot. And I was like, man, that sound just sounds more like what you hear with a rake. So I was leaning.
To be clear, we're talking about that location in Florida where I had my experience. There are accounts from eyewitnesses seeing all kinds of different creatures there. It's not just a Bigfoot place, right?
Right.
And there was accounts of a creature walking around on all fours that was very, like, slender and just creepy as hell looking, right?
Right.
So, I mean, and the rake kind of fit that exact description to a certain degree, right? So it makes sense before, like, really going into the rabbit hole and trying to figure out the origins of such a thing, right?
Sure.
But what I was referencing was the fact that when you started, like, detailing and, like, showing some of the audio or playing some of the audio or whatever, I was having, like,
a little anxiety. Yeah,
I was having. It was weird.
Sure,
it was, like, totally unexpected. I'm trying to think how long after it was. Maybe 5 months after.
Yeah, it wasn't real. It wasn't long.
It wasn't long.
I would have guessed
there in May, end of May, early June, and you came out like August, September to give that talk.
Yeah, it was in August. As a matter of fact, I'm almost positive it was in August. So yeah, I believe it was in August. So you're right. It wasn't long. I guess it was. For some reason, in my head, I was thinking it was like a year later, but you're probably right. I don't keep track of that stuff. So.
But no, it's some interesting stuff. Like, whenever I play those wood knocks for people, they get creeped out.
yeah, those are
creepy,
and they go on for hours, and they're like, and the weird thing about it is, you listen to it on on the audio, and keep in mind that Ryan and I were asleep, all right, and I just put a recorder in the window of the little sugar shack that we were sleeping in. I put a little recorder in the window, and that's what we got it on, was through the window. You know what I mean? So there wasn't any direction on it, but you could tell they were coming from different distances, probably different angles. So whatever was doing it, there had to have been a dozen of them out there, and they were messing with us, even though we were asleep and didn't know it. To them, they were messing with us.
It's really, really compelling audio, in my opinion.
I gave
it's
you that
over
too.
on the Patreon, I believe. So patrons of the podcast can go over and they can go find. I think I uploaded some of the audio of those over there. So, but I think what I'm getting at too is like it's such an excellent opportunity to also be exposed to new ideas or new theories or new information or new research and evidence that maybe you didn't know about yet.
Right.
When you go to that's what I loved about UPARs. I just never knew what I was going to learn after any particular talk. And then there's also other talks where you're just like, everyone gets to make up their own mind about whether they want to believe anything that someone's saying, right? Mm-hmm. So discernment, I think, is important when it comes to these, because there are situations where people slip through the cracks.
Sure.
And, they might have a good run for a couple of years just spouting a bunch of bullshit at conferences, right? And we don't need to name names or get into that stuff.
Right.
But
although I will if you want.
No, we don't need to.
I'm kidding.
We got a list over
here. I got. Let me. I'll be right back.
My buddies, the Smoke King and the late Jiggy over at Paranormal Hood.
To what?
Well, you never heard of
Oh, your friend is Smokey. Is that his name?
No, Smoke King.
Okay.
These are their names.
Okay.
And they have a show called The Paranormal Hood.
I got you. I thought you were saying my friend is smoking over in the hood. I'm going,
no,
what?
Okay.
What?
I was saying a sentence.
Yes. Okay, I got you.
Unfortunately, Jiggy passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not that long ago.
Sorry.
But they had a popular, they would do a live YouTube show. And I got to check in with Smoke King to see if, I think he's still doing it. But they'd just be smoking blunts, talking paranormal. But part of it was naming names on a regular basis about people who are just like, hoaxsters, fraudsters, people like that in the world of the paranormal.
Sure.
Ruining it for the people who are doing real research.
Absolutely. And I got to tell you, I mean, I have no problem with it personally. And I've got friends who I would, if asked, under the right circumstances, it's like, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. This person is, whatever. But I mean, I will tell you that most of my friends, anyway,
present company excluded.
Just ask. No, honestly, Ryan's a great guy.
Let's hold that thought for a second.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a quick break.
Okay.
For some sponsors. And as a reminder, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. No commercials. None of this capitalism bullshit. Okay? So, hey, I got to, the podcast pays for my cell phone every month. I mean, it's not like I'm buying a house over here. But let's relax.
Right.
So we'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you to the sponsors, whoever they were this week.
That's right. Thank you.
I have no idea what commercials are getting inserted there.
Yeah. So what do you get? You get like Coca-Cola or?
No, I get.
Am I allowed to actually just start saying names of companies, or is that like?
No, of course you can. Nothing will happen.
All right. Big Truth Pet Transport. Some of the big ones.
Yeah, some of the big ones.
Yeah. By the way, I own Big Truth Pet Transport, so that's why I'm saying that.
Yeah. No,
that's a joke.
IBM.
Notice the plug.
I saw someone made this joke the other day. It was the dumbest joke. It was like, they're like, "Oh, who do you work for?" IBM. Oh, so do I. IBM also. Like, okay, we all bowel movement. Got it. Okay, so moving on. IBM.
I get it now.
Yeah, now you get it. I literally had to spell it out for you.
And there's only 3 letters. How hard is it?
Okay, so I'm trying to think what I probably know what. I don't really know what I would do if I was like a speaker at one of these things.
Right.
I would probably talk about my experiences. I would either do like shape-shifting and then a Florida talk, and then tie it into an overarching theme of like, I think idealism probably, which I believe everything's connected through consciousness.
Absolutely.
But which I think could be an interesting presentation if done well. But I'm curious if what your opinion on this is, and because like I said before we took the break and everything, I think these conferences are a great opportunity to be putting the information out there, right? And these new ideas and new thoughts. And I'm curious if you believe that's being utilized or that's being done in an effective way at these conferences, or have they turned more into kind of a pop culture show?
You know, it's funny, and I think that's a great question. But I got to tell you, there are these little cycles in all these things. Okay, for example, at one point, you know, you had, and we're just going to say Bigfooting, for example. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the paranormal or ufology or anything like that. Let's just go with Bigfoot for an example, because I'm more closely connected to that than I am the other. But so, you know, 60, 70 years ago, Bigfooting was taboo. You know, there were only a handful of people who actually did it. You know, and if you ask all those people, by the way, all of them, with the exception of very few, would tell you, I believe they're there. I've never seen one, but I believe they're out there. All right, but they're like, no, I've never seen one, but I found footprints. You know, or I heard this or that. But they're honest. I've never seen one. Now every Tom, Dick, and Harry's like, oh yeah, I seen them out in the front yard all the time. Yeah, one climbed up my tree. You know, and it's like, I find that a little intrusive.
It wears on you.
It does. I'm not saying anybody's lying. Don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is, it's highly suspect that those type of things happen so often for the normal person, when guys were out there literally going into the worst places in the world for people to go, and they were spending months out there looking, and they never see one, you know? So anyway, so you had real on the ground.
Like when you lay it out like that, it's like, so why are any of us still looking?
You know what I mean? Yeah. Why not just go out in your front yard and put up a lawn chair? You know. So
yeah, I mean that as well.
Sure. So the first stage was the real boots on the ground, the tough guys out there doing it. You know, there's actually 4 of them called the 4 Horsemen, who were the original guys, right? And by the way, none of them saw a Bigfoot, which is interesting. So then suddenly podcasts started coming in. Okay. Next thing you know, 3 or 4 years later, everybody's got a podcast. There's like 500 podcasts going on out there now, just Bigfoot related. Okay,
it is wild.
It is. Now you're seeing these podcasters who are like, well, there's too much competition. Now I'm not getting 1 million views anymore. I'm only getting 200 because there's so many that people can't just listen to them all. You know, so what are they doing? Now they're making documentaries. So now the documentaries are starting to take over. So what's going to be
I feel
next?
Like this is a personal attack all of a sudden.
No, that's why listen, if the shoe fits.
I just plugged my documentary.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
But yours is actually, like your comedy special, and you've been doing this stuff though. You're not like a.
I didn't just start doing this yesterday.
Exactly, and that's my point. I'm talking about the people who, and there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. By the way, now I got to point that out too. There's nothing wrong with making documentaries, but in conferences, at one point there was a big conference in Ohio. There was a big conference in Washington. And that was basically it for the Bigfoot conferences. They were sprinkled a couple here and there. Now they're every weekend. You can choose wherever you want to go. Now they're everywhere.
Really interesting because what you're laying out is exactly what happened in comedy. Just it's happening after comedy has already gone through this.
Right.
Before the pandemic.
Well, tell me how it ends.
Well, I'll tell you exactly how it ends. Before the pandemic, shut everything down.
Oh yeah. God, it was.
We were sitting around. There was a bunch of comedians, and some comedian had figured it out and put it together. There was a comedy festival, at least one, every weekend of the entire year, and then it got to the point where there were multiple. And some weekends, like the big ones, like the summer and things like that, the popular weekends, had like all kinds of comedy festivals happening. It was to the point where it was like, you literally could have been a comic who performed at a comedy festival 52 weeks of the year,
right?
Which was, thinking about it, knowing how it used to be, how there was only a few, and I'm not saying that was the right way, because it's not.
Right.
it was mind-boggling.
Oh yeah,
right. That is no longer the case. Comedy has reset itself. It was oversaturated. Comedy has reset itself. They will build back up to that again, I think, because comedy festivals are really fun times and they're good. It's good for comedy to have those. But what you will see is an oversaturation, then you'll see a crash and a burn.
Well, here's the perfect example and a nice, I don't know, connection between the two. I don't know about the comedy ones because I've actually never been to a comedy festival. Although it sounds like fun, but I was explaining to somebody I was helping to negotiate a fee for a speaker to come to the Paracon in Tennessee. The offer, I won't say what the numbers were, but the offer was, a lot lower than what the speaker wanted. Okay, I mean, the speaker wanted literally 10 times more was what they thought was fair. And I explained to them the same thing I'm telling you now. And I said the problem is there are so many conferences that a good conference now is a crowd of 1,500, maybe 2,000. That's a good conference. Most conferences are getting 700 or 800, right? If you're only getting 700 or 800 people, and by the time you pay for the facility, all the extras, there's not a whole lot of money to spend on speakers. So the speaker money isn't quite what it probably used to be or what people feel they should deserve. But if the money's not there, it just isn't there. You can't. So we and I will say that while that particular speaker, who is very well known, by the way, she's a freaking sweetheart, very well known, and her number is not wrong. That is what her value is, and I told her that. I think what you're asking for is fair, but no one has that kind of money right now because the conferences are so frequent now that nobody's bringing in the crowds they used to.
Well, you don't have the travelers. Because now someone can wait an extra month or two for the conference that shows up in their backyard.
Well, people still travel. You'd be surprised.
But it's not as much. There's not 5 or 10 conferences that you have to be I have to go. There, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because they might get the same speakers at the conference. That's going to happen a month or two later. That's only 100 miles away from me, as opposed to 800 miles away from me.
Sure.
Is what I'm saying.
Well, these things are booking far enough in advance as well. So, for the Paracon, for example, and by the way, I think it's going to be a great event. It's going to be a lot of fun, but it's already advertising. The speaker list is already out. So you're absolutely right. Someone could say, and Josh heard me talking like this. He's going to be like, dude, he's probably going to kick me in the butt. But people could say, well, the speaker I want to listen to is going to be closer to my house just a month later. I could just, wait and go there.
Yeah, although I don't think with the speakers that he's bringing in for the Paracon and things like that, all these people also have live. They're not taking a whole year off just to do nothing but conferences. So
right.
I think it's probably safe to say that I was probably a little incorrect in me saying what I was laying out a second ago, the more I think about it. But I understand what you're saying about the dilution, how it's becoming diluted to a certain degree.
Absolutely. So you had podcast, then you had the advent of just mass conferences all over the place, and now that's switching into documentaries. Now everybody's got a documentary. Hell, and you're right. And again, this is, I'm not referring to you and what you're doing, but even myself, I've talked about it. Well, we went to Florida to film a documentary, so I'm just a part of. I'm on that wave as well.
This is the evolution of the thing.
Absolutely. If you either keep up or get out of the way, that's literally the way it's going. And I don't know what the next step is going to be. I do know this. There are a lot of these apps on TV now you can get to watch different shows. And I'll give you a great one, by the way. This is a great one. And it definitely, it's called Paraflix, Paraflixx, all right? It's $3.99 a month. It's a cup of coffee, all right? An entire month. You got to download that, watch that, because it's phenomenal. It's got some really good shows on it. But I think that's the next step. I think it's going to go from documentaries to television shows, and then those television shows are going to get on these little networks, and they're going. And I think that is the next step in the evolution of where people are going.
It's like it's specialization and it's the fracturing of media.
Sure.
And gone are the days of the 3 networks or whatever. And,
right.
I mean, there's even like a guy I've known in comedy forever who's huge. He's a worldwide superstar now. Mm-hmm. His like YouTube channel is pretty much all he needs. Right. He has just become his own thing.
Sure.
Where he doesn't need CBS, ABC, NBC.
Right.
He cut out the middleman because he built his fan base. And now he's got this worldwide fan base where he sells out arenas. All he needs is his own YouTube channel now, right? Sure. And he's like producing his own content, like a channel,
right?
And will everyone become a singular entity in that way? I think, some people probably wish they, want that for themselves. Right. That to me sounds exhausting, and it sounds like something that's not enjoyable. But that's not to say that from the outside looking in, I haven't been doing a version of that already.
Sure.
The podcast, the videos, the web series I've put out over the years, the short films I've made, the stand-up comedy. Like, someone could go to my YouTube page right now, and if they didn't know any better, they would lose a couple days of their life.
Right.
Watching all of the videos I've made over the years.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, right? Because you didn't know any better.
I said, shit, Ryan's going to be here on Tuesday. I better start on Sunday.
So I do get it. I mean, it is really enjoyable being in control of your own product.
Sure.
And in shaping it in that way.
And I think that's what people are doing. We'll say the innovative people are doing now is, I think it's already happening, especially in the paranormal community. Even more so than Bigfoot or even ufology. In the paranormal community, there are, and I'm not exaggerating. There's probably 500 TV shows. Between all these different apps. That are on television right now that you get to choose from. And some of them will take this one, and this one will go over here. So that one's going to go over to that one, and people are making and producing, and they're doing a great job, And I have to make this point because I'm not saying they're wrong to do it. That is not what I'm saying. I actually commend them for what they're doing. I think they're doing great. I think it's a great idea. But what's happening now is the innovative people, and I need to make sure I emphasize that I'm not one of these people because I have no clue what the next step is. But the people who are innovative are going to start anytime that next step, that next wave. And I don't know what it's going to be. I keep my ear to the ground. I listen, but I haven't heard. But after these TV shows start kicking off, which they are, there's going to be something else, And if you don't have a network like, Expedition Bigfoot, who, by the way, the cast is phenomenal. The storylines are phenomenal. The editing is phenomenal. The entire thing is phenomenal. Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch, same thing. I mean, I've met every one of those people from both those shows. Super, super good people. No matter what you see on TV, they're great people, right? And they do a great job. And I'm not taking away from anything that people are doing, because I think if you're doing anything, you're doing something, and that's awesome. Do something, I just don't know what that next step is yet. And I'm sure you and I will eventually, you'll call me up one day and say, dude, I got the next step.
Yeah, well, I know that there's, a buddy of mine, Eric from Epic Paranormal. He just does live streaming all the time on his investigations constantly. And it's like, he's got a pretty good following who just watch him live. He goes live on TikTok or Instagram,
sure,
and YouTube, like simultaneously. And he's just live streaming the investigation stuff. And it's just like, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And you have to be singularly focused on such an endeavor, right, to do so. And I've got a comedy career that I try to make sure I can pay my bills
sure
with. So I don't get to singularly focus on the paranormal. I mean, because I also have other interests. You know what I mean? Like,
have you ever thought of a factory job?
I have. And a factory job has been thinking about me lately. When I look at my upcoming bills.
Yeah, I know.
A factory job has been thinking a lot about me.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to think that, like, you know, these conferences are a really great place where these new ideas and really innovative thought can be presented and can pick up steam.
Absolutely.
Right? And to sell tickets, it has to be a pop culture event to some degree.
Sure.
You could have the most brilliant researcher, investigator with the most innovative idea about the paranormal who actually could have the truth, like a unifying theory of the paranormal. And if nobody knows who they are because they're not on television,
right,
there'll be 4 people in that conference room.
Amen.
Watching them lay out the most beautiful truth about the universe.
Dude, I've seen it. I'll give you a perfect example. And, you know, he's a buddy of both of you. He's a buddy of yours first. And then he's a buddy of mine too. But, you know, look at Alex. You know, Alex is such a smart guy. And his ideology is like on point. And he's going to be speaking at Paracon in Tennessee. You know, I was like, dude, we got to get Alex in here. He doesn't have this following. And that's because he has never put himself out there, you know. But he's exactly what you're talking about, you know. I can't wait to hear his presentation because I know it's going to be good. He's going to be talking about the evidence he's seen, that he's investigated, you know, the different things in Southern California that was going on. You know, it's going to be a really good presentation. But
and he's got like one of the greatest photos of like an entity as well. It's like it's a pretty well-known photo that he took.
Really?
I'm sure he'll be presenting it at Paracon. But
which photo is it?
We'll have to.
Well,
we'll text it with him later about it. But it's really remarkable. It's in the woods, and it's a jaw dropper when you look at this photo. But yeah, so it is. To me, it's the same way with anything though. I truly do believe that if something is really good enough, it might take a really long time, but it will find the light of day somehow.
Sure. Yeah.
And I feel like that is the case with anything, whether it's art, the paranormal, research, things like that, you know. And like I'm a member of the ASPR, which is the American Society for Psychical Research. And I don't even get like a membership card. You just have to like tell people you are and hope they believe you.
Right. Is that kind of like Mensa?
Yeah, it's like it is. It's yes. Whenever anyone asks you if it's something you're a part of is like Mensa, I think the right answer is always yes.
Yes, it's always the right answer. Yeah.
But you know, you do get you get access to like a library, and if you're ever in New York City, you can go to the library and blah blah blah. You know, you get access, to things that non-members don't.
Right.
And some people might be like, well, how do I become a member of the American Society for Psychical Research, which is just the American version of the original that started in Europe. But the answer is, well, first of all, to be a member of such an esteemed society, you have to have $70.
Yeah, I was going to say, it turns out that I'm smarter than everybody in Mensa, because I was invited to Mensa, and I'm like, nah, I'm not paying the entry fee. So I'm smarter than they are.
Yeah. So first of all, you need $70.
Yeah. Well, was that, honestly, and I mean, all joking aside, was that the same organization that in England that went to where Ed and Lorraine Warren went to, that they actually made a movie of the house?
I'm not real sure if they went to the, because I think it's just the, oh God, I can't believe I'm blanking on this.
I know, me too.
The PRS, the Psychical Research Society, or Society for Psychical Research. It's like parapsychologists,
right?
Members of this, like, because they're interested in like the actual science of psi phenomena and psychical research, and there's been, been splits. There's been, different people have different opinions. There's some pretty well-known people have been members of the society, of these groups through the years, like prominent scientific names,
right?
Especially who are involved in psychology. William James, I believe, he was like considered to be the father of Western psychology. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was a member. I should know this before I start talking about it, but anyway, I do not know. I don't really follow the Warrens just because I'm not like in on them.
Right. No, and I'm with you. This was a house that they actually, there was a movie made about the paranormal events that happened in this house. It was it was an apartment. It was like one of those, like, I don't know, like a building with like 4 apartments, but they were all like right next to each other, I just butchered that, I'm sure, but you get it. And but there was but Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I only remember they went there because that's why they made the movie. But it was but in the real investigation, there was an organization that went in and did that, that study before anybody.
I mean, it very well could have been.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it very well could have been. And I mean, most parapsychologists. Now I'm speaking out of turn. I have done a pretty decent amount of research actually into parapsychology, and there's some really prominent names. We don't have to get into it. I mean, but like Duke University had one of the most famous parapsychology like programs, like a research lab there for a while. But I think it's fair to say this, what I'm about ready to say. Dean Radin is probably one of the most well-known contemporary parapsychologists who's been all over the place in conferences and things, writing books and things like that. Most of them, I would venture to say, they prefer controlled environments, laboratories where they're doing controlled experiments to try to prove psi phenomena, right?
Sure.
As opposed to going to someone's apartment or, and then like doing field experiments. They're mostly trying to do it under the parameters of, scientific method, having a control group, trying to eliminate all ability to say, this is bullshit, it can be debunked because of this.
Right. But how can you be in a laboratory that may not have any, paranormal entities there,
Well, that's a little bit different. I mean, if we're talking about trying to contact entities, that's different than if we're trying to... Now, with psychical research and parapsychology, that's not to say that it's not interested in some of these things, because I believe it is. And there are some pretty fascinating experiments that Dean Radin has been involved in that kind of show connections to the occult and other things, right? But mostly we're talking about psi phenomena, ESP, things like that.
Right.
Like telepathy, that kind of psi phenomena, telekinesis.
Well, listen, I got theory on that too, because if and I get it, I get what they're trying to do, but if they're still working on it, it's because they've had some luck, you know what I mean, or it wouldn't still be going on. You know what I mean? So,
well, depending on who you ask,
sure.
There are very compelling results over the years in different experiments that have been conducted in very controlled environments. And like I said, depending who you ask, Dean Radin said it best. I listened to an interview with him years ago, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'm not going to say it's a direct quote. But the gist of it is, because it's probably been 5 or 6 years, I used to walk around my old neighborhood in Los Angeles and just listen to like Manly P. Hall lectures, who's an old esotericist, but in like other interviews with like Dean Radin or parapsychologists, things like that, right?
Sure.
And he said, when he was asked about why are more psychologists not in parapsychology, and he said something very telling, which really resonated with me, that I related to. He said, because in a scientific field, people who are bent towards science or lean that way, they don't want ambiguity. The reason they love science is because they can get definitive results, an answer one way or the other about something, right?
Sure.
And parapsychology has ambiguity, and it's tough for people to accept that there's nothing you can do about it.
But
most of the time.
But if they're getting, if you have a result, and then you can copy the result, and you can get it to do it again and do it again, then it's a scientific. That is the scientific method.
Well, you're talking about a human element here.
Well, okay, you
that is a variable because a person, because they have shown through experiments in parapsychology that if a person is, the longer a person is being tested, the results diminish. If I'm not mistaken, a person can get tired,
sure,
and things like that, and it's difficult because of the human variable to be with different people trying to identify psi-ability in different people. It's not like it's just an easily replicable experiment in that way. That makes sense.
But, okay, and I get that, but once, I guess my point is, even though there's that human element involved to an extent, once they've, if you're hypothetically, let's say you're talking about remote viewing, okay?
That's a great example.
Yeah, and there was
That's probably the number one example we should have been talking about this whole time, actually.
Sure, but there was a test that was done, and they gave this person a coordinates, all right?
Yeah.
And they said, okay, I want you to look at this coordinates and see what it is. And the person did their, whatever their thing is, and they remote viewed the location, and they're like, man, this is really weird. It just looks odd. It doesn't remind me of anywhere. And they were talking about the little mountains and just dust and sand and all that's all there was. They gave them coordinates for Mars on a location in Mars. So this person supposedly went to that coordinate on Mars, but didn't know that that's where they were. And they're like, yeah, this is just really strange. I don't recognize this place. It doesn't look familiar. And they were given all these reasons why. So I'm like, okay, at that point, you can take the freaking human element out of it. Something's happening,
No. What you're saying is exactly right. What I was trying to say was now getting another person to be able to replicate that result, right?
Okay.
Through remote viewing. That's where it becomes a little more difficult, right? As opposed to just dropping a saline solution onto a chemical or a mineral of some kind and getting a color to appear,
sure.
Right? Something like that. That's what I was talking about.
Okay.
But yes, that is compelling, and there has been a shit ton of evidence over the years.
Sure.
And you were right, and that is why people still get involved in parapsychology.
Well, okay. Well, let's discuss why it's so hard to replicate that. Okay, let's just step back for just a second. Some people, I believe anyway, some people are much more sensitive than others. Okay, and I'll give you an example. There are people who can go into a house and almost perfectly tell you what happened in the house, even though they had no prior knowledge of where they are or anything else. They can go in and say, well, this person, someone killed someone right here. It was the neck, so they must have gotten hung or not throat. Nope, it was a throat cut, and whatever it is, they can pretty much and fairly accurately point it out. Okay. Now I can't do that, but if I'm driving down the street and this has happened to me where it's like I'm driving and I go, ooh, I drive a lot and I get like this really odd feeling, and I know people are gonna laugh at me for this, but I feel like I can sense paranormal places, like haunted places. I really feel like I can, and I can, but I'll get that feeling out of nowhere. It's not like I'm thinking about it and I go, that I just feel, no, it's like just pops like out of nowhere. I get this almost a sense of dread. And I was driving down the street about a month ago, and I'm going around this curve, and I got it. And I'm looking around like, there's no houses. What am I sensing? What am I feeling? And I go around the curve, and on the left is this freaking house that it was like
it looked like a haunted house.
I shit you not. I'm sorry. I kid you not.
I said fuck no.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
So don't worry.
While I was driving, I look over at the house, and I it was like
I felt like I was making eye contact. I felt like something watched me as I drove past the house, and I'm looking at the house. I felt like there was eye contact. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see anything. But that feeling you get of making eye contact, I had it. I'm like, this is really weird. So I can't go in there and tell you who died where and what happened in the house. My point to that isn't to talk about what I can do. My point is to say there are different levels of what people can do. So to find someone on the level that can freaking go to Mars is probably pretty hard to do. So replicating that with a different person doesn't surprise me you can't do it or hasn't been done.
Yeah, well, I love how impassioned you are about this.
Yeah, sorry, I got...
No, I mean, I just told you I loved it and you apologize. Do we need to talk about this?
Yeah. Can I get the number to one of your people?
Yeah, I've got multiple therapists. I can give you one of their numbers.
Well, I mean, but I am passionate about it because I think, obviously, in the world of the paranormal, whether it be cryptid, paranormal, ufology, whatever it is, anything paranormal, science is the policing force, and it has to be, and I get it. But what I get tired of is science saying, and we'll go back to Bigfooting because this is the best example of it. They say, go get me some evidence. I'm not going to waste my time going out looking for Bigfoot. So bring me some evidence and I'll go look. You go and get evidence, you come back and they go, yeah, but that could have been faked. That picture's probably fake. It's like, so then tell people what you want. Tell people how to collect it. Teach people the wearing a mask and wearing rubber gloves. Science, if they're not going to investigate it, I think it's irresponsible of scientists to ignore what thousands and thousands of people claim to have seen and ignore really good photographs that, can they prove they're real? Of course not. Can they prove they're not? Absolutely not. You can't prove a negative. You can't prove that that's not real. But there's a chance I could prove it is, So if they're not going to at least take it serious enough to get involved, then quit policing it. You know what I mean? I get tired of
100%. I am 100% on the team of I don't need science. Absolutely. And I believe it's Hermeticism probably, which will be a good guidelines for like structure and framing of paranormal phenomena. I have not had the time nor the energy to even get into any of that at this point. I am 100% on team. I don't care what a scientist says when it comes to these things. Now, if on the other hand, if there's a parapsychologist, these are scientists,
sure,
right? Basically, what I'm saying is I'm done with armchair scientists, people who are not scientists, using the scientific hammer to try to shatter any and all evidence or compelling belief about paranormal phenomena that they heard someone they think is smart say once.
Sure, right.
So they listen to that person, right? And like James Randi, that guy, I could give two shits what that guy used to say or who he invited to do his $1 million challenge to prove blah, 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 blah. James Randi can go get fucked. Now,
I thought we weren't bringing up names.
I don't. Well, he's dead.
Did he die?
I think he's dead.
I didn't hear he died.
I don't have animosity towards James Randi, but basically, and there are cases of people submitting evidence and following the guidelines, and then there was a flood at the office. we lost all your evidence and paperwork that you submitted for the $1 million. But that's the skeptic's number one guy.
Sure.
Well, the Randi challenge. Why wouldn't they want $1 million?
Right.
Because not everybody cares about money.
Right.
Not everybody cares about being validated by the scientific community. Not everybody needs that. Some people are just living a paranormal life that is extremely, unexplainable.
Sure.
But they don't. Guess what? And they're not advertising, and they're not going on podcasts. They're not, like Bill and Carolyn are a great example. Like they don't want to be on camera.
Right.
They don't want any of that, and they just want answers about what's happening at their house.
Right.
And we don't need James Randi to come out there. right? Like, quote unquote. Like,
sure, I get it.
Theoretically speaking.
Right.
And they don't need James Randi to tell them that they're crazy.
Right. Well, they're not crazy. And, there's been, if nothing else, that one paranormal investigation at the decrepit house, that we did. That, dude, and a perfect example of feeling things. I don't know if when we were filming that, I was sitting in the windowsill. And I swear to you, I felt like something was going to grab me and pull me out the fucking window. I was like, oh my God, this is... I literally got up and moved. And
that was a crazy, whole day and night.
And you realize right outside that window is where whatever Dan saw stand up and run away, that's where that was. And I'm like, man, dude, it was right by that window. It was like 15 feet from that window. So whatever was there... I was like 15 feet from the darn thing.
You know what's... Oh, God. You know what is really striking me in this moment?
What's that?
Every time... Not every time. Oftentimes when I'm doing a paranormal investigation, like, quote-unquote, traditional paranormal communication in a haunted structure...
Mm-hmm.
There is, because I'm thinking about, because we were inside that decrepit house.
Mm-hmm.
We decided to go outside around the house and see if we could call in orbs. Like, we just seamlessly transitioned from paranormal inside to paranormal outside.
Right.
And then this happened. Then that whole thing happened where we're chasing after this fucking footstep. Anyway, and then we got the thermal image on Dan Butler's camera. And then later, I'm doing a paranormal investigation inside the house. I have an experience outside.
Right. Do you remember? I left a recorder in the house going, by the way. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and there's something that moves.
Yeah, something slides, and then you hear a voice, clear as day, say...
None of us are in there.
Nobody's even close to the house, and you hear his voice go, they're outside.
Yeah.
I mean, that's freaky.
Yeah, and there's other occasions where, like at Poasttown Elementary School, we're doing inside stuff, and we are pulled outside. Essentially we're told to go outside. Mm-hmm. And so what I'm saying here is I'm noticing a pattern, at least in my own paranormal investigations,
mm-hmm.
where whenever I'm starting inside, I get pulled outside. And I don't necessarily fucking like that. It doesn't happen all the time.
Right.
We had some great, although I was at a place called the Cambry House, just a few, that was me on the couch.
Okay, I was like, what is that?
Just a few weeks back, I was at the Cambry House with my buddy Karen Rontowski, and Becca Williamson runs this great haunted building called the Cambry House. Mm-hmm. And we were doing an investigation in there, and we had a really substantial noise happen inside, where it was like a table moved, like it was right next to all of us, and nobody touched it. It was really loud and really substantial. Anyway, we get called outside at one, and basically, my buddy Chad Derry, who's there, he's like, "There's something. I keep seeing things moving past the windows." Next thing you know, we're outside, and there's something for me. Now that I'm realizing this in the moment, right? I'm realizing there's a pattern here for me specifically. Like, if I'm starting inside of a place, the chances are pretty good that I'm going to be pulled outside.
Right.
And which leads me to believe, and I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud because it's something I'm just thinking about for the first time, is that I'm supposed to be investigating outside. And I don't want to say that out loud right now. And maybe I'm overreacting, but I feel like I am supposed to be out fucking side.
Like, are you saying all the time, or are you saying
I'm saying
at that investigation specifically?
I'm saying both. And I'm saying that I'm not focusing enough when I'm thinking about doing investigations. I'm always thinking about what building am I going to? Where can I go? And right now I'm realizing I should not be thinking about buildings.
Right.
I should be focused on the outside. And I don't particularly love the idea of that. It becomes a lot more difficult to navigate. And there's a lot more noise happening that can be easily explained away by other creatures or just squirrels, blah, 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 blah,
Sure.
blah. But trying to do more paranormal stuff outside. I'm not even talking about just straight up Bigfoot or UFO stuff. I'm going to have to think about this. And we're going to, because I do think that The Bridge, the series that I'm releasing on Friday, 11/11/22, which I think is a perfect day to release it. It's an ongoing. It's going to be an ongoing investigation for me,
Right.
Trying to use consciousness to connect all paranormal phenomena. But it started at Post Town, and I realized this my last trip to Post Town that I don't need to be there anymore for this investigation to continue because it went the way of aliens.
Right.
And which I believe we had direct communication, and we opened up a line of communication with extraterrestrial intelligence, and I don't need to be at Post Town for that. So I could do that, and we could do that in your backyard, right? So,
well, we'd have to get Claudia in here.
well, I'm not suggesting we do that right now. I do have to sleep here.
Yeah.
But Ed, this has been great.
No, listen, man. As always,
we're well past the time of being complete. I love the passion. I think it's important. I think it's necessary to keep pushing the field forward. I think we need that. And I think most people who are involved in the paranormal are interested because they're passionate about it. At the very least, they're like extremely interested in it.
Right.
And that's what we need. And that's what makes it so great and so fun.
Well, I tell you what, as always, it's been a lot of fun. I always have a good time. And by the way, that Bigfoot conference in Virginia is called the 2022 Virginia Bigfoot Conference. So, and I don't have dates on it, but I believe it was in June. You can obviously look
plenty
that
of
up.
time for that to get out in front of that.
Sure.
And so,
but no, every time we talk, Ryan, even if it's not on, because this is a conversation you and I would be having sitting in the kitchen right now, just sitting there shooting shit. You know,
for sure.
And
we're not talking about fantasy baseball.
That's right. We're like, who's going to hit 4 home runs tomorrow? Because that's going to be good odds.
Yeah, what's a good parlay bet?
Yeah, it's a good parlay. But these are conversations that we would have, and I guess I do get passionate when it comes to these things, and it's because I get tired of the taboo issues of it. People are, if you believe in that, you're silly. It's like, well, why don't you believe? And people don't believe because they're taught not to believe. The welder next to him, Bob, the welder, works next to him at work, says, that shit, it's crazy. This stuff ain't real. So you go, well, Bob says it's not real, so it must not be real. How in the hell would Bob know? So, and people are taught that it's not real and there's no legitimacy to it, or it's all fake and everybody's a liar, everybody's kooky, everybody's crazy. Well, let me tell you, at Paracon, I don't know if I said it on here or not, but I'll say it again if I did. There were so many doctors on that panel that when I got up as an MC and I started, did I say it on here? I don't want to repeat it, but
no, you did say it at the beginning.
Okay, good.
Conference.
Yeah, it's like this isn't a medical. So believe me, there are a lot of people who are highly educated, very well known. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. Rebecca Foster, Dr. Maria Mayer. I mean, the list goes. I could sit here for 10 minutes and list off people who are academically sound to do this, who are a lot smarter than Bob the welder. So I do get passionate because I get tired of that aspect of it. If you're going to argue with me, then you better go study first, because if you don't, I'm going to rip you apart. So it's just the way it is.
Yeah. So.
But yeah, thanks for letting me vent.
Yeah, of course. Sit down with Ed Brown when you get a chance, ladies and gentlemen. And more details about my trip to Florida and all that good stuff coming soon. If you have not already watched The Supernatural, give it a go. I think you're going to like it. After 20 years in stand-up comedy, I can finally say, you know what? I'm pretty darn good at stand-up comedy. I think you'll enjoy it. So it's a beautiful, beautiful special. The way it was shot and directed by Stephen Fine Arts, produced by Blonde Medicine, and Jessica and Rachel, my management team, and Jessica over at Blonde Medicine with Dominic. I just can't be thankful enough for how well that turned out. So thank you for listening to the show. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer for ad-free episodes and more, like the Wood Knock audio. It's in there somewhere on the Patreon page.
That's cool.
If you're a patron, just search Wood Knocks or whatever. You're going to find that audio, and just don't listen to it before you go to bed.
Yeah, you got to add the big X to that too.
All the photos?
There's video.
Oh, the video, yeah. Actually, it's interesting. I wanted to talk to you about that. The trail cam footage is not on that drive you gave me. Where we walked down into the Sugar Shack right before I had that experience. And then you see the flashlight shining on the side of the building. Remember, I've seen it.
I remember that, yeah.
It was not on that. It was not in any of that footage that you sent me. Or that you transferred over to me. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again, everybody. I hope to see you at a live show. I'll be at Wiley's December 9th and 10th in Dayton, Ohio. I'll be in Mason City, Illinois, New Year's Eve weekend. So, and other shows here and there. So, RyanSingerComedy.com. If I don't see you at a live show, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.